everyone, Mariah Monetize here, and in today's video we are going over the price of Bitcoin. I am going to be showing you some very fascinating correlations between this market cycle and the previous market cycle. One thing that most people do not mention when looking at charts is time, okay? Length of time between prices and market cycles, but I am going to be getting into that today. The correlations that I'm gonna make between this market and the previous market cycle are actually quite insane. But I actually now have a lot more clarity than I have had in the past few months when it comes to what time frame, which months, which dates I'm looking to buy, and at what price zones. Like I said, you need to watch till the very end of this video because this is going to be shocking. So once I go over the price of Bitcoin, I'll be getting into some other cryptocurrencies as well very briefly. We're going to be looking at traditional markets, seeing how crazy low the prices are when it comes to marijuana stocks, and then I'll be going over a tiny bit of news, but to be honest with you, things have been rather boring when it comes to the news. So let's go ahead and get into exactly what I am talking about here. So this is what I want to mention to you. So basically, we know that we saw this recent uptick in Bitcoin when Bitcoin hit, it hit just above $31,000. So what I did was I took the period of time in terms of days between Bitcoin hitting 69,000 and then that high of just above 31,000. 520 days between those two periods of time, and obviously we have now seen a pullback on the price of Bitcoin. So when I backed all the way up to Bitcoin's previous market cycle, and I took a look at when Bitcoin hit $20,000 in December of 2017, and then we saw this uptick where Bitcoin went up to $13,000 after hitting the low, and formation-wise looks very similar to what we are currently seeing. 529 bars between the high of 20,000 and this top on Bitcoin when Bitcoin hit, the high was 13,359. And then we saw a major pullback on the price of Bitcoin that lasted months, a lot of sideways trading. That was the accumulation phase. So pretty wild, right? Because I think that's exactly where we currently are in this market cycle. We are over here in this range in comparison to the previous market cycle. So that's insane. 529 days versus 520 days. So what is the next thing here that I'm looking at? Well, let's go ahead and see what Bitcoin ultimately did after that. So we know in March of 20, when the pandemic hit, the markets tanked dramatically. So I am gonna go ahead and take that out of what I'm about to calculate right now. So from that top of about 13,000, well, let's see here. The high was actually, I want to correct myself, $13,850. I was on the wrong candle. So when you look from a percentage point, how much Bitcoin pulled back, Bitcoin pulled back approximately 50%. So if we see the same thing happen to Bitcoin pulling back 50% from 30,000, we're looking at the $15,000 range. Personally, I think between 15,000 and 18,000 is very likely. I think that's going to be where I am going to be placing my buy orders. So what I want to look at next is when the opportunity was best to get into Bitcoin in the previous market cycle and how that will potentially correlate with what we see in this particular market cycle. So this right here is December of 19, so that was approximately 2 years later. This right here is March, which is an outlier. I don't really want to include it in that equation. So basically, I don't even want to actually include this particular zone as where to buy just because Bitcoin was recovering from that 20 pullback. So I could have bought here in the $6,000 range in December of 19 or over here, but like I said, I don't want to include this because it is an outlier with the COVID situation. So I'm gonna change this to the weekly chart, and basically show you after Bitcoin hit $20,000, when would have been the best buying opportunity. So when we look at that high that Bitcoin made at about 13,000, and we look from a time perspective of when it hit 13,000, buying opportunity was here between 21 bars and about 27 bars, okay, on the weekly scale. So from what I'm looking at now, the $31,000 range, I want to be buying between probably approximately 21 weeks and 28 weeks out. So where would that put us if we see Bitcoin do similar? 21 weeks, okay, is going to put us towards the end of August, the week of August 28th, and week 27 is gonna put us at about the second week of October. So September is likely going to be that sweet spot of accumulating Bitcoin. But what I'm also I'm gonna be combining that. So September is probably going to be the month to buy. But when I also look at a pullback, when it comes to the 31,000 point, Bitcoin pulling back approximately 50%, then that puts us at, basically, that puts us right at Bitcoin's previous all-time low of about 15,500. So right in that range. So something to consider there. As you can see here, this was obviously that March candle, but it took Bitcoin back down into the range of its lows that it made over here before that big uptick. So I am looking to be buying Bitcoin approximately in the month of September. And then I'm also anticipating to be putting my buy orders between the $15,000 and $18,000 range. It's not a bad idea to go ahead and put some buy orders also below that range as well. But something that you want to consider is that has you buying here, and will probably, you know, if you're gonna hold that, you're gonna have to wait a bit of time to see major gains. So that's gonna put you here December of 19, and then, you know, Bitcoin is gonna go insane approximately an entire year later. So what we kind of see is the halvening, which is going to happen probably around March, April range. There's going to be, the price of Bitcoin is going to be priced in pretty much, and then we'll see the major gains probably in the fall of next year. So you have a choice. You can kind of just hold through that sideways chop boringness for several months, or if you want to potentially get in a little bit higher, then that would put you over here. Let's see, let's check if you want to hold out a little bit longer, being more of a cash position, then that would put you at about about 1 year, between 52 weeks and 55 weeks from 69,000. So that would put us, so 52 weeks would put us at April, buying then. Because what typically happens is there's that slight drop around the halvening, so that would make sense. And the 57 mark, so pretty much the month of April. So you kind of have a choice. You could probably get Bitcoin at what the low that we're going to see sometime in September range of this year, or if you want to hold out and get Bitcoin at a low price but a little bit higher, and you rather hold in cash for that approximate 6-month period of time, that's probably going to be your second best option. So that's what I am anticipating here over the next several months. But let's go ahead and do a little bit more of a deep dive on the current price of Bitcoin and where I see it headed. This is a weekly chart, and if you've watched my videos for a long time, you know. There is one indicator that I have back tested that works quite consistently, and if you follow it, you'd make a ton of money, one, and two, you'd barely have to trade. And one is following this thick green and red EMA, okay? So it is a 5 and 12 EMA. And so when the green crosses below the red, that is time to sell. And when it crosses above, it's time to buy. I am anticipating the green to cross below the red in approximately a month or two. So the weekly chart, it's still technically holding bullish structure. and being held up by this particular DMA, but I do believe that we are headed lower to the next stop of about 23,000. We'll probably chop in that range for a while. And then right over here, this dotted red line is where I see a massive buying opportunity just above $18,000. I am anticipating that. Let's take a look here at Bitcoin's daily chart. So the daily actually looks pretty good. It has made a higher high, but could not get over that DMA, being held up by this particular DMA. And if it breaks below, then we are headed to the low $23,000 range. So technically, the daily is still holding a bullish posture, but I don't like what I'm seeing here on the chart. This is a 12-hour on Bitcoin, also made a higher high, and actually looking rather bullish on a pullback. It'll be really interesting to see if it could hold the low of this candle right here, which is 25,885. So I kind of like, well, now we're starting to see here on the 4-hour Bitcoin's weaknesses. So Bitcoin isn't really showing any weaknesses on the 12-hour, on the daily, on the 7-day. It's showing a lot more weaknesses here on the 4-hour chart. So making lower lows, lower highs. This here is the hourly. So let's see. Hourly still needs to make a higher high. I would say the hourly is looking weak. I wouldn't be touching the hourly. The 30-minute is looking okay. So a lot of mixed structures here on all different time frames when it comes to Bitcoin, making higher highs and higher lows. Let's take a look here at the 5-minute. 5-minute looks decent. So let's go ahead and zoom out, not zoom out. Let's go ahead and change directions here and take a look at Ethereum. So as we know, sometimes Ethereum leads the way and it can give us some signs. Interesting. So we're seeing Ethereum up slightly as Bitcoin is down 0.72%. So this is the 5-minute, but let's just first back up to the 7. So we might see a little bit of a pump here in the price. Interesting. This is the weekly chart, which looks better on Ethereum, I would say, than it does on Bitcoin. I don't know if it's going to be enough though to be convincing. So the daily charts look similar. The 12-hour chart looks similar. 4-hour chart here. So a little bit stronger. Ethereum definitely looking a bit on the stronger side, looking okay here on the hourly. Let's take a look here at the, so what's interesting, this is a 30-minute making a higher high. So the 5-minute chart on Ethereum showing some strength here. Bit of an uptick in the price. Gold sitting at 1977, Coinbase stock at 6510. What else do we have here? We have Litecoin at 9562, DOT at 524, Link at 644. And just across the board, some coins up a percentage or two, some coins down a percentage or two. Let's go and look at traditional stocks. So we have SPY, which has had a very strong day. Okay, what's today? Today is July 1st. Okay, so this is, watch this. This is a very interesting 12 a.m. reversal, 12 a.m., 10 a.m. reversal. Stock markets are opens here, trades downwards, and look at that, 9:55, and then boom, it bottomed for the day at about 416, and now it's up to 421. A lot of strength here on SPY. Let's look at the daily chart on SPY. So overall, SPY is looking rather good. It looks a lot stronger than Bitcoin. So we might potentially see Bitcoin have some follow through because it's trying to correlate with SPY, but we are continuing to see less and less correlation. Every time I've looked at the charts here in the last month or maybe month and a half, not nearly as much correlation. Let's take a look at marijuana stocks. Tilray down to 173, up 3.59% on the day, but this Tilray chart making all-time lows. I really haven't been following fundamentals of these marijuana stocks, but I do think that there will be some massive opportunity because of how much they pulled back, but I would have to get into more fundamentals of each individual. Let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla at 205. Wow, so Tesla, a big jump. Let's look at the daily chart here. Some strength here on Tesla in the last few days. So let's go ahead and take a look at a little bit of news here in the space. So PinFed has actually exited. You guys know I like talking about the car business. I find it really fascinating when it comes to just used cars, new cars, how that's all going, because I am in the car rental business. If you want to rent a Jeep or another car while you're visiting Puerto Rico, I have a link down below for that. So PinFed is actually a big credit lender here in Puerto Rico. During the pandemic, they had the best rates, 0. And so they had actually better rates than Banco Popular, First Bank, which are also other popular banks here on the island. So another auto lender exiting the car business. Feels like auto credit is evaporating. This time it's PinFed Credit Union. I don't know if they do a lot more business in Puerto Rico than they do in the States. I'm not really sure. I didn't know about PinFed until I actually moved to Puerto Rico and was interested in purchasing a car, and that was one option. Goldman is doing a 3rd round of layoffs in September. Some MDs and partners will be laid off, not a good sign for investment banks. As part of the debt limit deal, the pause on student loan payments will end likely on September 1st. A few facts about student loans. Payments and interest accumulation pause has been in effect since March of 2020. 1.63 trillion in outstanding federal student loan debt. The pause costs taxpayers about $5 billion every month, according to House Republicans. 43.5 million borrowers owe an average of $37,471. 4.8 million federal loan borrowers in default. The student loan forgiveness plan proposed by Biden is still on the table, which the Supreme Court will rule on. Ugh, can't talk today. Crypto exchange Bybit exits Canada, citing recent regulatory development. This is a really interesting stat, a little bit unrelated, but I found it to be quite fascinating. In 2021, 68% of 25-year-olds were living outside their parents' home. In 1980, 84% were living on their own. And then when it comes to marriage, in 1980, 63% married. Today, 2021, 22%. And 39% had children in 1980. Because we're talking about 25-year-olds, and now 17%. Breaking odds of a 25 basis points increase interest rate hike in June hit a fresh high of 67%. Wow. However, the odds of a 50 BPS rate hike are still at 0%. Into July, there is now a 30% chance of 2 25 BPS rate hikes. Interesting. Russia to use crypto exchanges to settle cross-border transactions. Housing market update. This was put out about a week ago on the 25th. Home sales are down 23% over the last year. Average 30-year mortgage interest rate above 7%. Median rent price at a record $1,900 a month. Housing affordability index below 2008 levels. Nearly 50% of millennials don't own a home. Very fascinating. So I'm kind of bored with the news, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. But I hope you found this video super fascinating. It's amazing to see what the correlations are between the previous market cycle and what we are currently seeing now in terms of time frame. Unbelievable what we are seeing. And so I am excited. And what are you doing today to earn more, I was gonna say sats. Can't talk today. But I have a link down below for Fold. And so Fold is, you get a free spin every day, you get free Satoshis. Not a bad thing to do. It's kind of like a fun part of my day. And if you actually get their upgraded debit card, you get 50,000 free Satoshis. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a link down below for that if you wanna check it out. But at the very minimum, you get the app for free and you spin and you get free Satoshis every day. Nice little dopamine hit, you know? If you're a gambler, you love to see the wheel. I'm a big Wheel of Fortune person. I love the wheel. So that's all that I have for you today. As always, go out there and create a portfolio that you love.